Story recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, horror, and music film called Nocturne. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. In Lindbergh Academy, a violinist and prodigy, Moira, plays Tartini's Devil's Trill Sonata inside a practice room with etchings of mysterious symbols on the wall, when suddenly, a grandfather clock chimes and stops her from playing. Outside, she sees the sky turn a yellow hue before climbing the railing and jumping to her death. In the present, fraternal twin sisters Juliet and Vivian become passionate classical pianists starting from a young age. At home, their parents are having a small get-together with their friends, much to Juliet's dismay because of the noise that's distracting her from practicing. She then gets disturbed by Vivian, who's looking for her music sheet but can't find it. Unable to focus on playing the piano, Juliet goes downstairs. One of her parents' friends congratulates Juliet about her acceptance into Juilliard, but it turns out that it was Vivian who got accepted while Juliet is taking a gap year. When they arrive back at their music boarding school, Vivian immediately runs to greet her boyfriend, Max. At the same time, Juliet's father cheers her up despite not getting into Juilliard, letting her know that there's more to life than being in the spotlight. An assembly takes place in honor of Moira, where the principal, Gordon, announces that they will continue the music showcase in her memory. Moira was their soloist, and with her gone, they've decided to hold auditions for the concerto, much to Vivian's delight. The sisters hang out with Max and their other friend, Alexis, who gossips about Moira, or as he calls her, Mad Moira. He says that she used to be very odd, detailing the strange symbols she carved on the walls of the room she was in before jumping from the third floor. He also mentions that Moira was ambidextrous. However, Juliet thinks she's a brilliant student, and she feels a bit weird that they're continuing the competition despite her death. Meanwhile, Vivian believes it's only fair, noting how someone else should get the opportunity to play, especially after Alexis dishes out that there might be Juilliard scouts in the audience. The two sisters talk while getting something from their cubby, and Vivian confronts Juliet about her piece, telling her that she should switch songs if she wants to. But Juliet says her assigned teacher, Roger, a musician with vocal dystonia, won't let her change last minute. Still, Vivian tells her to have the courage to do something she likes. Then, in the middle of their conversation, Juliet sees how Vivian declines a call from an unknown number. As Vivian leaves, the man tasked to clean out Moira's cubby drops her music theory book, which Juliet notices. It's a black binder with a drawing of a sun on its cover, and although she calls out to the man, she ends up keeping it instead. During Juliet's practice session with Roger, she mentions changing her piece for the concerto auditions from Mozart to Saint-Saëns 2, the same piece that Vivian will be playing. However, Roger doesn't support her decision and tells her to stick with her current piece. As she leaves, she sees Vivian in another room and watches in envy as she's being tutored by Dr. Kask, the best teacher in their school. Then, once they finish, Juliet quickly jots down her piece for the concerto and submits it to Dr. Kask. In the practice room, Juliet tirelessly tries to perfect Saint-Saëns until late at night. Then, when she leaves, she suddenly hears the Devil's Trill Sonata being played inside one of the rooms. Intrigued, she followed the sound, but the music stops once she finds herself inside the same room where Moira killed herself, seeing a symbol of the sun carved into the wall behind a curtain, the same symbol on Moira's notebook. As she opens the notebook, she reads a short poem on its front page, alluding to a Faustian bargain. She then sits down at the piano and plays the piece on the notebook, only to be surprised by Dr. Kask telling her that the piece is Tartini's Devil's Trill. As Dr. Kask leaves, Juliet continues scanning the notebook and finds different drawings depicting the steps she must take to achieve her dream, but the page containing the final step is torn off. The following day, Vivian loudly knocks on Juliet's door, telling her that they will be late for the audition. Vivian then makes fun of Juliet when she sees that she got her period, but she immediately tries to comfort her sister when she sees how upset she is. While waiting for their turn in the auditorium, Juliet feels she's about to have a panic attack, so she tries telling Vivian about it, but her twin brushes her off, telling her not to disturb her, so she runs to the bathroom to take her anxiety medication. However, as she's about to take the pill, she sees Moira's notebook, and it suddenly compels her to take 3 pills at once. She then goes back to the auditorium and watches the ending part of Vivian's performance, and everyone is awed by her addition. She takes her turn on the stage, and when her piece is revealed, it surprises Roger and Vivian. As Juliet starts to play, she suddenly enters a dreamscape where she sees herself on stage, being applauded by an audience as she finishes her piece. The dream version of herself holds a smirk and looks directly at her, who's staring up before she hears Gordon's voice. As it turns out, she passed out after playing her piece, and she asks Gordon how she did. The principal gives her a polite compliment. However, Roger doesn't seem happy about it. Juliet returns to the classroom and accidentally opens Moira's notebook instead of hers. Then she notices a drawing for the first path, a woman holding 3 circles in her hands, reflecting how she took 3 pills. Seconds later, Juliet suddenly starts seeing colors fill the circle until Vivian puts a piece of paper in her table with a drawing of a hand, giving her the finger. But when she removes the paper, the notebook looks normal. Before leaving the classroom, the teacher, Wilkins, checks up on her condition before telling her that she seems to have improved, especially with her audition piece, and tells her to keep up the momentum. After class, Juliet chases Vivian to apologize for stealing her piece. But Vivian is too mad at Juliet, telling her that she only embarrassed herself by showing how jealous she is of her. Juliet then looks at the posting for the concerto, only to be disappointed after seeing that Vivian got the solo for the showcase. Because of that, Juliet's bitterness towards her sister gets intense. During practice, Roger confronts Juliet about her piece switch, telling her he had her best interest at heart when he told her to stick with Mozart. But Roger proceeds to tell her that she's overly ambitious about winning to become a concert master and that she's better off becoming a music teacher instead. This then triggers Juliet to talk back to Roger, telling him that she sacrificed her entire life dedicated to playing the piano and that she won't settle for anything else. Juliet also finds out that Roger voted for Vivian in the audition, which greatly upsets her. A full-blown argument starts between the two as Juliet prepares to leave, resulting in Roger slapping her after she insults his failed career. Roger gets suspended because of the misconduct, but Juliet is told that he probably won't get fired because he's a good teacher. But for the time being, Principal Gordon assigns her to an interim tutor. However, Juliet specifically asks for Dr. Kask. Juliet finds a bunch of bloody tampons in her cubby one day, making her march angrily to Vivian, knowing that she was the one who did it. However, Vivian doesn't take her seriously and simply says they're now even. During practice, Dr. Kask tells Juliet that she's almost on the same level as Vivian, but she just lacks the drive and the passion that her sister shows in her performances. When Dr. Kask says Vivian plays like the devil is at the door, Juliet asks about Moira, to which he replies that Moira played like the devil was in the room. Back in her dorm room, Juliet inspects Moira's notebook, looking at the eerie drawing and incomprehensible words. Then, she suddenly remembers Alexis' words about how Moira was ambidextrous, so she takes the notebook and puts it in front of a mirror, realizing that the writing is all backward. Next, she reads the paths indicated on the drawings. The first path is the invocation, followed by assurance, triumph, consummation, purification, and when she gets to the 6th path, she finds the torn page. Juliet wakes up in the middle of the night after her phone continuously pings. She then sees a yellow light inside her closet, and when she goes to check it, she sees a dead Moira smiling at her from the mirror. However, it's simply a nightmare, and Juliet wakes up to check her messages, seeing that Max is inviting her to a college party. Despite her reluctance to go because of her fight with Vivian and their curfew, Juliet still follows Max, who gives her some drugs. A little while later, the drugs start to take effect, so she goes somewhere quieter to get some air. She then finds Vivian talking on the phone, having a conversation with someone that indicates she's cheating on Max. However, Vivian tells the other person on the phone that their relationship is over, and once she leaves, she doesn't notice that Juliet is there. Max finds Juliet inside the cave while looking for Vivian but helps Juliet when she throws up. The two start to bond, talking about their passions, and Juliet shares that she's always been the one who wanted to play the piano. However, Vivian surpassed her. She also tells Max about how she kept Moira's theory notebook and that it somehow makes her feel more confident as if it's talking to her. Juliet then flirts with Max, telling him that she'd like to be kissed. Unfortunately, Vivian overhears their conversation and the sisters start to fight, pushing each other. Upset, Juliet runs away, but when she gets to the end of the cave, she sees a bright yellow sun outside, making her trip in surprise. It stops her from running ahead, realizing that they're on the cliff's edge and that Vivian has fallen from it. Juliet sees Max pass by and she stops him from running and going over the edge. Then, Max finds Vivian below, injured and unable to move, so he calls 911. The next morning, Juliet wakes up on her desk, not remembering how she got there. But what's even weirder is that she has multiple sheets of music papers scribbled with Vivian's name. She then sees Moira's notebook turn to the triumph page and finds the similarity of the drawings to Vivian's appearance when she fell. After that, she flips back to the second path, Assurance, and she looks at the drawing again, finding the similarity between the Devil's Hand and Roger's. Later that day, as she gets to the school, Wilkins calls her to the office, where she finds Vivian waiting outside with a cast on her arm. Inside the office, Principal Gordon tells Juliet that Vivian is suspended for breaking curfew. Furthermore, with her arm broken, they need a new player for the concerto and offer the position to Juliet, who enthusiastically accepts. That night, Juliet goes to talk to Vivian and finds her by the stairs crying. Apparently, because of her injury, there's a chance she might not be able to play as well as she did before. Juliet tries to argue, saying that she wasn't the one who broke Vivian's arm. However, Vivian blames Juliet for letting her fall. Because of this incident, the sisters' relationship seems to be broken forever as Vivian walks away. When Juliet returns to her room, she researches Moira's previous life and calls Max to talk about the notebook. She tells him that the pictures in the notebook are starting to happen to her, helping her just like how it happened to Moira. Moira's mom fell off a ski lift and went into a coma, while her father burned down their house while he was still inside. But Max tries to reassure Juliet, saying that Moira probably had a history of psychosis and that she used art therapy to cope for a while, knowing that there wasn't anyone she could talk to. Because of that, Max concludes that Moira killed herself after failing to deal with her grief. However, after their conversation, Juliet spills the beans to Max that Vivian has been cheating on him. This makes Max confront Vivian immediately, and they have a screaming match in public while Juliet watches from her room's window with a faint smile on her face. The days go by until the concerto, and as Juliet practices, the seat breaks from under her and causes her to accidentally bang her head on the piano. Dr. Cass gives her an ice pack and then gives her his number, telling her to call him if she needs anything. Instead, Juliet invites him to their birthday dinner. As Juliet leaves her practice room, she once again gets drawn to the room where Moira died and goes towards the symbol carved by the window. Then suddenly, she gets surprised by Max, who tells her that she and Vivian broke up. The two make love, but Max immediately regrets it afterward and leaves her in the room. During the twins' birthday dinner, their parents get into a debate with Dr. Kask about how no one would listen to classical music anymore in the coming years, finding their daughter's careers a bit pointless. But Dr. Kask tells them that real music would live on, preserved by those who deserve it, and then looks at Vivian. Enraged, Vivian throws a chocolate cake at him and splashes him with her drink before walking away. As they leave, Juliet's mom notices that her father is drunk, so Dr. Kask offers to drive Juliet back to campus. Dr. Kask invites Juliet inside his house, where he starts to cheer her on for the concerto, trying to boost her confidence for the big day. However, Juliet misreads the room and kisses Dr. Kask, thinking he's interested in her. Worried about his career, Dr. Kask immediately rejects Juliet, so she confronts him about his secret affair with Vivian, realizing he's the one calling her sister when he gave her his number. Juliet also learns that Dr. Kask has fallen in love with Vivian, and the two start to argue, bringing each other down as Juliet points out how he's now a failed musician like Roger and that she's going to be great unlike them. On the other hand, Dr. Kask points out how famous musicians achieved greatness at a young age and that she's already missed her chance. Juliet then angrily throws Dr. Kask's prize trophy into the fireplace out of spite, so he shouts for her to get out while he desperately fishes it out of the flames. Juliet hurriedly goes back to her room after realizing that she's already completed the first 5 paths from Moira's notebook, and all that's left is the missing 6th step. Eager to figure out what it is, Juliet sits down and grabs a pen, letting her left hand move on its own to reveal the final drawing, only to see an illustration of a woman walking off the ledge with the word sacrifice. Scared, Juliet quickly burns the notebook on her sink and starts to cry. Then, on the day of the music showcase, she starts to change backstage, where Wilkins tells her that Dr. Kask called in sick. Vivian visits Juliet, confronting her sister about her hatred towards her and wondering if it's because she was better. But Juliet believes she will surpass Vivian now that she's injured and that Juilliard scouts will be watching her on stage. However, Vivian tells her that Juilliard doesn't need to send out scouts, so there's no way she'd get in. Vivian also tells Juliet that they're both failures, except she has a reason while her sister is simply mediocre. As Juliet goes on stage for her performance, she suddenly suffers a panic attack and walks out, crying, much to Vivian's delight. She then sees the bright yellow light calling out to her, leading her to climb to the roof. Juliet steps on the ledge thinking of jumping, but she sees the yellow sun in front of her before she steps off. She is then transported back to the music showcase where she finishes performing her piece, and the audience applauds her solo, which is the same scene she saw from her dreamscape. Unfortunately, this turns out to be a final hallucination for Juliet as she actually jumped to her death, with no one even noticing her body.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.